What's going on, guys? Welcome back. My name is Brandon and I've got something really exciting to show you today. Stick around. You guys know that I own a few YesWelder products. Well, they reached out to me and asked me if I'd be interested in taking a look at one of their newer machines. This thing is incredible, guys. What I've read about it, we're going to find out today. We're going to open it up, hopefully use it. It's the first test, CT2050, but what makes this really exciting is that this is a 7-in-1 welder and cutter. So it's got a built-in plasma cutter. It's got a built-in air compressor on board, so you don't need an external air source. And this thing welds AC aluminum. So with this welder, you'd be able to stick weld, you'd be able to Tig weld steel on DC, and you'd be able to Tig weld aluminum on AC, and you'd be able to cut your material with its built-in onboard air compressor. That is pretty cool. Let's get this thing opened up and check it out. And here's a look at the side of the case. And this will also do AC and DC Pulse Tig, which is pretty cool. And another feature that I'm seeing here right off is that this has like smart, or which would be like synergic in AC mode. So you just set a couple parameters and the machine will set everything for you, which makes it really nice, especially for someone who's starting out and just trying to learn what the settings are. Those can be really confusing. This smart setting in AC mode will do that for you. And we're going to be using all the settings. We'll do some AC Tig, DC Tig. We'll be doing Pulse Tig. We'll be using all the functions. We'll even do some stick welding with it. And we'll be doing some plasma cutting with it because it's got its onboard air compressor to cut stuff. And here's the box that we get. Let's see what is included in this. I believe this is going to be your regulator for the plasma cutter. You got your gas hose for your argon, some fittings for your regulator. Wow, impressive, nice looking heavy duty earth clamp. Yeah, that's not your typical punched out sheet metal. I like that. It's nice and solid. Very well built. We've got an adapter with it, guys. So it has a 240 plug on it now. So this machine is obviously inverter based and it will do 120 and 240 power. So that's good for you guys that don't necessarily have a welder plug in your workshop yet, or maybe you're working towards getting a standard 240 volt welder plug. If you don't have that, you can use this adapter and you can just plug it into straight 120 for now. Hose to hook up the regulator, the electrode holder. We'll go into all these in a little more depth here in a little minute. Looks to be like a WP26 type Tig torch. Oh yeah, this is, oh yeah, I like this. Look, this has the nice lead on it. It's not super heavy. It's got an adjustment up on the head. Comes with some consumables, back caps, collets. Nice. It's even got a standoff for the plasma cutter torch. That's slick. Yeah, this feels really good in your hand, and this is nice and lightweight. So one of the first things we got to do is we got to get the plasma cutter part hooked up. Let's get this all assembled, and then we can start looking at all the features. All of this stuff looks pretty straightforward. A little nut that you put on the back side. And what that nut does apparently is it spaces it away to keep it off the fan guard right here. And this just has a little nut on top that you unthread. You don't have to go crazy with this because you don't want to break it, but I'm just snugging it up just a little bit. See, on this side of the gauge, I've actually put a shop fitting in here, or an air fitting for a shop air compressor. Now, there are a couple ways you can pipe up this unit, and we're going to talk about both of them, and I'm going to show you how to do it right now. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut a piece of tube that goes from the gas out. It's going to go around to the gas in. Now, that is going to be so that the onboard air compressor for the plasma cutter can work directly with this unit. Then I just took a pair of scissors and cut the tubing that came with this kit to 13 inches long, which is equivalent to 330 millimeters. Then you just push one end of this tube down into that fitting. They just lock in place. Then you do the same thing with the other fitting. Just push it down in, locks in there, no problem. There. Now that's all set to run the onboard air compressor. But let's say you don't want to run the onboard air compressor. You want to use your shop air compressor. How do you do that? Real simple. Just cut a little short piece that's going to fit right here. I've made my tubing piece 3 inches long, which is also 75 millimeters. Take this piece of 3-inch tubing that you cut, remove the fitting out of this by pressing down on this little ring right here. That releases it. And take your 3-inch piece of tubing that's going to remain up in this fitting all the time and stick it into this fitting. Just like that. Yeah. Now you can connect your air hose to that side and use the regulator to adjust your air pressure. It's that easy. If you want to switch it back, do the same thing. Press that fitting. That little piece of tubing will stay connected to that all the time. And then stick this right back in there. And this is probably how I would run this unit all the time anyways, 90% of the time. And I would just have it set up like this, just in the event for whatever reason I wanted to use an external air source. I don't know why I'd want that, but I would probably leave it set up just like this and let it use its onboard air compressor to power up the plasma cutter. So one of the first things we're going to do, guys, is I want to do some AC Tig welding, and I'm super excited to try out this machine because YesWelder touts this as their all-in-one fabrication shop just because it does so much, especially with the onboard air compressor for plasma cutting. It's non-touch pilot arc, so you can cut through rusted metal and whatnot. It does AC and DC Tig welding, and it also does AC and DC Pulse Tig welding. Plus stick welding. You can use a foot pedal with this. It just does a lot of stuff. So, but the first thing we're going to do right now is we're going to get the Tig torch set up for some AC welding. So I've hooked my gas connection up to the front. Now we're just going to hook up our leads, and we're going to be welding aluminum, so the ground or earth goes to positive and the Tig torch goes to negative. So we are ready. Let's get going. And if you're wondering how long the leads are for this, about 12.5 feet long. These did not come with this setup. I purchased these separately. So you get a long back cap, a short back cap, 4, 5, and 6 cup, and you get the corresponding collets that go with that. So 1/8 inch, 3/32, and 1/16. Thread on our back cap. We have our 3/32 collet, and I've got a piece of sharpened tungsten. Alright guys, I want to take just a minute to talk about some of the quick settings, and then we're going to kind of go into depth and detail into each. So this dial right up here is where you pick your process. So you can see I got AC Tig. If I press it again, I go to DC Tig. Press it again, go into stick welding. Now these are your torch modes. You can select from cutting with its onboard, or it's an external source using your compressor from the shop. Then you can pick which mode. So we're going to be doing some AC Tig. So then we can select the mode. So you got 2T, which is your standard mode of operation, which would be you press the trigger, it ignites, you let off the trigger, it goes out. 4T, kind of like cruise control, that's more for like CNC production, or if you have real long runs. You press the trigger and you let off and it stays ignited. You press it again and then you let off and it goes out. Or you can select foot pedal, which is an optional thing. So we're going to go 2T for this. This right here is your peak current, and you select each of these modes. So you've got pre-gas, start, slope up. We're going to briefly talk about each so you know what's going on. So it goes from 5 to 200 amps, and that's in this mode that we're in right now. It's going to be different for stick and whatnot. Press the button again. Now we got downslope. That's in a matter of time. That's from 0 to 15 seconds. And what the downslope is, that's from the time that you're at your welding current down to it tapers off to whatever you set for a stop current, which leads us to this. So that is 5 amps, and it goes all the way up to 200. And post gas, again, that's based on time. So you can go from 0.1 of a second all the way up to 15 seconds of gas flow. And AC balance goes all the way from 10 up to 65. Now the higher the value, the faster that the tungsten will burn away, but it gives you a better cleaning action. They set 30 as their default, and that's what we're going to stick with. We'll try it right there. And then you've got hertz, and factory is 85 hertz. Now just know that the lower the number, the wider the arc basically, and the higher the number, the finer the arc. And that goes from up to 250 all the way down to 20. And pre-gas flow goes from, again, 0.1 all the way up to 15. And that's basically the gas that starts flowing before the arc ignites. Then your start current, that goes from 5 all the way to 160. And that's the time of how long it takes from your start current all the way to full current, or the current that you set it to. And that goes up to 10 seconds. And these numbers right here just tell you what your input voltage is. So we're plugged into 240 volt power. But what we're going to do is we're going to try out the smart feature. You can see right here, we're going to click smart. Now look what you got. You can select your weld position, so flat, vertical, or overhead. And as you can see, that adjusts your amperage just a little bit to account for that position. Now you got a couple parameters that are automatically set for you. If you go over to this dial, you can toggle to 18 gauge, and you can see it's also done in millimeters, 16, 14, 1/8 inch, or 3/16 aluminum. We're going to be doing 1/8 inch because that's what I have for coupons here. And if you want some links on where to get these nice practice coupons, I'll have links down below. You get a bit of a discount. So you can see that that's automatically changed our parameters. That's set our amperage to 95 amps. Let's toggle through and see what it gave us based on the material thickness. Gave us no slope, down slope, 20 stop amps, 5 seconds of gas flow after the ignition is stopped, balance of 30, hertz of 85, half a second of pre-gas, 25 start amps, no slope up, again 95 maximum amps. So let's strike an arc, see how this thing does. Yeah, very smooth. Not bad for my first arc. Now ignore the other stuff over here, guys. This is just a sample pad that I do different things on. I think this might have been MIG welding, and we were experimenting with different settings and travel speeds, but this is the bead I just laid down right here. And I think what I'll do is I'll put another one down right beside it. And that's the second one I just did right there. So there's my first one, is my second one. Like I said, this was like MIG. We were just trying different stuff. I don't really know. That's some other project. But I use these coupons to just test stuff on and get my welder dialed in. And yeah, this thing welds super nice. And if you guys want more information on the duty cycle and what it's rated for on each of the processes, here's a quick shot. You can pause it and take a look. I just can't get over how smooth the arc is on this. So now let's just try out Pulse Tig. And the way you get into Pulse Tig with this machine is you just hold this center knob in, hold it in for 3 seconds. And you see that menu just popped up in the middle. What that is, that's your pulse frequency and your secondary current. And we'll talk about that here in a second. To turn it off, hold it in again, 3 seconds. And that's just back to regular standard AC Tig mode. Let's do it again. Bring it back into Pulse Tig, hold it in 3 seconds, boom. And then you just toggle it like you normally would. So that's the secondary current is 90. Pulse, the pulse hertz is 0.2, and you can go from 0.2 all the way up to 200. So let's go to back onto smart. Okay, let's give that a try. You should hear the difference. You'll hear it like buzz. And I'll start by laying another bead right here, right into where that cleaning action was. And that's the Pulse Tig right there. Very capable aluminum welding machine. I love it. I love that it does Pulse Tig, and I love that it does regular Tig. Let's TIG weld some mild steel now, and we will toggle over now to DC Tig. It's literally that easy. We'll set our amperage for, let's say, 120 amps. We'll try right around there. And there's all kinds of charts online, guys. We won't get into it here, but there's all kinds of charts online and on my welding channel, different charts. If you go to the community section in YouTube, I've got a bunch of charts in there as well. So we'll start with 120 amps and see how that does on this material right here. It's just under 1/8 of an inch thick. So it's just messing around, guys. That was a little too high. I actually blew a hole right through the metal. So let's go down to like 80 amps. Let's see how that does. Oh wow, yeah. Getting this thing dialed in. It's been a long time since I've actually TIG welded, guys. Let me pull you in a little bit closer. Definitely not some of my best work, but I've talked to you about this a lot in other episodes that sometimes it takes some practice, you know, with the welders. Each welder welds a little bit different. Alright, now that we've tried out all the TIG features, let's start out trying the stick welded features. So I've got a piece of 3/16 plate clamped down to the bench. I've got the working lead clamped down. I've taken off the TIG torch accessories, but we do want to switch up some things. We're going to weld DC electrode positive. So we're going to take our ground or our earth and we're going to connect that to negative. And we're going to take the lead off our electrode holder and put that into positive. And these leads are just about 9 feet long. You can see it's remembered our last settings that we were doing. And we'll go over to stick welding. And just like all the other processes, it's all intuitive. Just turn the dial. It goes from 10 amps all the way up to 200 amps. We're going to be burning some 6010 1/8 inch electrodes. Now, a lot of inverter welders struggle to do a 6010. This welder, the literature specifically says it will easily burn a 6010. So we are going to find out. We're going to do that right now. Wow. Very nice. Yep, real happy with that. It lit that rod, no problem, guys. Had no issues whatsoever. And for those of you that don't know about 6010, 6011, 6010 and a 6011 rod are pretty much identical. They're the same things. However, a 6011 rod is specifically designed to run on like an AC machine, like an AC buzz box. 6010 cannot be run on a transformer or AC-based buzz box. However, you can run a 6011 on both machines. You can run a 6011 on AC, like a buzz box, or you can run it on a DC inverter welder. It doesn't matter either way. And one of the great things about 6010 and 6011 rod is it's not a substitute to not clean your metal, but it just doesn't have the problems that other rods have of not cleaning the metal. So, you know, you can burn through rust and stuff like that using 6010, 6011. It's just a real deep penetrating rod. Doesn't give the best bead appearance because it is a whip and pause rod. It's not just like a drag rod. You have to stop and just keep manipulating the puddle. But it's a fun rod to use. If you guys haven't used 6010 or 6011, it's just a real fun rod to practice with. And I think it makes all the other rods that you use maybe come a little bit easier. So recently I did a video about 7024 electrodes, and these are called a jet rod. I'll have a link to that video up above, but boy, these are a super fun rod to run in specific certain situations because you can only run them flat and horizontal. But go check that video out. I think you'll like it a lot. We're going to try it with this. So let's go up to, say, 140. We'll try that. That might be a little high. Let's try 120. All right, you ready for this, guys? Watch this. So check that out, guys. It's just a real fun rod to run. So let's do some plasma cutting now. You can see we got 3 components that we need to hook up here, and it's pretty straightforward what we got to do. So we're going to hook up our air fitting to this. Then we'll hook up our red wire that goes to the red connector. And then we connect our other lead. And then you're going to connect the ground or the earth into the positive terminal. And now we just select the mode that we want to cut on, guys. We just go back to this again. It's very intuitive. So you just press this button. So that's showing cut. And you see the little signia for the little air compressor. So that's like your shop air compressor. That tells you that on this setting, that's when you'd connect your shop air compressor to the back of that regulator. Then you go over to the next one. Cut, that's the onboard cutter. So that's the onboard air compressor. So that's the setting we want for that. And then the settings go from 12 amps all the way up to 45. So let's just go right to maxing it out at 45 amps. We'll cut this same 3/16 plate steel that we just welded on and see how it does. This is a nice feature that it has this standoff, because we've talked about this, and I have a number of videos on plasma cutting, and I'll put a real popular one up above. If you're new to plasma cutting, go check that video out. It's really handy. But you can see how this standoff really helps keep that tip off the metal, which is going to help preserve your consumables. So check that out, guys. Very nice. This is a very capable machine. As you guys know, I'm not a big fan of loud noises, and this compressor is not that. It's not an issue at all. It's got like a deep tone, so it doesn't hurt your ears. Wow, guys, yeah, really nice cut. Yeah, this cut's way better than another plasma cutter that I have. Check this out. Look at that. Look how straight up and down, you know, like 90 degree to the metal that those cuts are. That little dross on the back, that literally just breaks off. Just slide your chipping hammer down it and that breaks right off. All right, let's try it on shop air. So you're simply going to push down on this collar like we talked about, pull that pipe out, push this little short one, this 3-inch one in that we talked about earlier, just like that, and then connect your shop air fitting to it. Now we just go back over here and take it off the onboard air compressor and bring it back over to the shop air compressor, and it's ready to cut. You notice the difference, guys? Now you don't hear that air compressor running. It's running off my shop air compressor. No difference though. Still working just as good. Yep, absolutely perfect, guys. I don't see any difference between how it ran with its onboard compressor versus how it runs on my shop compressor. Check that out. So you could easily take this, guys, onto any job site, portability, bring it anywhere, and pretty much do just about any job. You can do your cutting and your welding all in one off one machine, which is pretty awesome, especially if you guys are just starting out or even a hobbyist. It's nice to have the portability, and you can do it all on 120 and 240 volt power because it's an inverter based machine. Pretty impressive. And that's all there is to it, guys. Really impressive machine. If you're wondering where you can pick this up, I'll have links down in the video description. You can click on those. And if you're wondering about any of the other tools that you see me using, you can click down on those links as well. If this is something that you like, please don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. New videos every Friday. So until next week, guys, I will see you then. Take care, stay safe, see ya. Like, comment, subscribe. Bye.